Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where we talk all things movies, TV shows, video games and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan as ever and I'm joined by my delightful co-host. It's Dan. Hello Dan.
Hello Regan, you absolute toad.
Oh, you're not very happy again, are you?
Well, I don't know, it could be the fact that I've been subjected to yet another era of Chris Chibnall.
Chibnall. Yep, this week we are...
Though I will say, it's not as bad as Series 11, but we will get into that.
We'll see about that one. But yeah, this week we are continuing to burn our retinas as we near the end of our Whoniverse Retrospective. This time looking at Series 12, somehow even more divisive than Series 11. But is there any good in it? Maybe. Maybe not.
Maybe.
There's some things I want to say, and there's things I don't want to say, but I have to. So you got to look forward to that. Timecodes can be found below if you want to jump around to certain episodes and moments. Let's just run straight into it, frankly, because these things need to be talked about accordingly and ranted over.
Yep. Well, first of all, we have Spyfall. It's pretty naff. This has been The Real Podcasters. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Beep. Beep. No, we are not allowed to do a 2-minute episode. That is not a thing. A trailer, maybe, but not an actual episode, Dan. I'm really sorry. We're going to have to...
Yeah.
So in terms of in terms of an introduction to Series 12, there isn't much of a difference between the previous one and this one beyond you've got the return of two-parters again. Yay. You've got some slight modifications to the TARDIS in that there's now a staircase. Wow. There's also some blue mood lighting when things need to get serious, and yellow lighting when things need to get stupid. I don't know how the hell they can actually tell the difference, frankly. You've got the return of some classic Doctor Who enemies, in that ones that are technically classic that have appeared in the revived series again, but whatever. And the contractual return of the Daleks later on. So, but beyond that, these series are virtually identical, frankly. But yes, let's kick things off with Spyfall Part 1, written by our Lord and Master, Chris Chibnall. Okay. In terms of this one, it is completely ridiculous. Absolutely just bombastic and wacky. Ripping off James Bond and a bunch of other things that kind of borders on cringe. The title alone being quite stupid. I quite like the twist at the end, even if there's other bits that I don't like concerning that.
That is literally the only good part of that. Like, that episode had me, sat on the bed, just boring. And then the reveal, I'm like, okay, you've got me.
Yeah, you've actually got me hooked.
Yeah, I'm not even if there is a couple incy-wincy issues I have with it, it's... Ugh. I mean, did it need to be an hour bloody long?
Yeah,
though?
I actually forgot how long it was, both this one and the next one. They're both an hour long, which is nuts. That being said, I do like...
It shows as well, my God, you feel that hour.
Yeah, this was because I rewatched this one during the week as well as the next one and Revolution of the Daleks, and a bit of other stuff here and there. And I forgot how off the pacing is with this. It's just completely all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
A staple of the Chibnall era, surprisingly enough. Even if there is some decent ideas, even if there's a rip-off of the Atmos system from the Sontaran two-parter in Series 4 with the sat-nav, which is just die. I've seen that before. You've actually got a name drop of Unit and Torchwood, which is fantastic. It's a shame they're not actually in this fucking series, but it's fine. It's okay.
It's not exactly enough to mention the names and then not do anything with it. It's just yeah, I forgot they were a thing. And they'll probably never ever show up in this series, but
and then you got Stephen Fry having a cameo for 2 minutes. Pointless. Absolutely pointless. And then you've got Lenny Henry, who runs a website called Vor, that Chris Chibnall genuinely thought was a good idea to name it. And I'm just sat there thinking...
That man and names.
Oh, yeah.
That man and
naming
names.
conventions hasn't actually improved at all.
again, when he was writing this, he just mashed in a few buttons on his keyboard, and whatever came up on the document was what he was going to use. Clearly,
but don't add because then people will think it's the other thing. I'm like, no, because you say it exactly the same. I'm like, I didn't know that Lenny Henry was into that sort of thing. That's a bit weird. I just assumed he was lovely and comfy, as if he's in like his Premier Inn. Speaking of, we do have Ryan and Yaz trying to break into Lenny Henry's local Premier Inn as well in this episode.
In the cringiest spy style possible.
Oh yeah, with like the laser shoes and the I think there was something else, wasn't there? Like a little pen that's turned into a dagger or something, probably.
Do you know what it is? It's basically just like a sci-fi version of Johnny English. That's basically what I thought of this episode.
I don't like Johnny English. That's the problem. Like, I really don't. I mean, I love Rowan Atkinson. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, not really for me. But this just felt. It's like it isn't even a parody of Bond, because even Bond did this, both in Spectre, like a couple of years ago. And then, in like the 70s and 80s and stuff, which is the ones that you watched. I didn't. I couldn't do it, quite frankly. I had enough of cringy Bond stuff. And then we've also got our aliens for this week, who don't actually get a name unless you read the credits at the end or watch the next episode. The Thasmin. And I'm just sat there thinking, you've literally got a character in Series 13 that's called something very, very similar.
What are they called?
Thasmin.
The Thasmin.
Yeah, but it's Thasmin with 2 ears.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's just some nonsense words spouted from a toddler's mouth.
Well, yeah, because his name is Chris Chibnall. Thasmin. Okay, Pating. Or Vor. Good God.
Oh, no, no. Yeah, these are just the silliest villains ever.
I mean, they don't even do anything in the entire episode beyond kill some people.
They just stand there.
Yeah. But then also, right, we mentioned in the Series 11 video last week about how Doctor Who and prejudice is something that's been happening for a very long time. And it happens again in this episode where she's like, oh, you're all evil. I'm like, how the fuck do you know? It could just be like a little group of them that have just decided, we are sick of being over here. We're going to go over here and build a computer. Because for some reason we can travel across dimensions, but we can't build a fucking Mac. And I'm just sat there just like, what the fuck is that? What?
We can't steal data, but we can travel halfway across the universe to get here.
Yeah, I don't like them, but neither does anyone else, really. But of course, the biggest takeaway from...
Yeah, they're just absolutely pointless.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from this one, though, is, which I actually really like, that actual idea of, he calls himself because that's how people react to him. Which, in fairness, you would.
Yeah, I'll admit that was a bit of a genius move, not gonna lie.
I was actually curious because you clearly didn't actually remember when I mentioned Saoirse Dhawan's master when I spoke about the power of the Doctor, so I'm actually... Good on you for actually forgetting. Thanks.
Well, I'll tell you what it is, after, from you seeing this 5 or so years ago and me seeing it last week or something. Maybe the week before, I think the week before, yeah. Wasn't expecting it, to be honest, and I immediately felt that he was just the villain. I was like, okay, yeah, you're definitely the master.
Well, yeah, because it's...
You're not just some, imposter. You are the master.
Well, yeah, especially because when the episode was gearing up to be broadcast on New Year's Day 2020, what a year, Saoirse Dhawan's name was not in any promotional stuff at all. Mm-hmm. In fact, he was edited out of some of the trailers. So as soon as he rocks, I'd be like, okay, he's someone. And I was always sat there thinking, I don't want it to be the Master, because I love the story arc they do in Series 10 with the Master, Missy. So if you're going to bring the Master back, you're going to have to do something interesting. And that's something we'll talk about more in the next episode, and I guess the finale as well. But I do like the actor playing the Masters. I think Sacha Dhawan, who also popped up in An Adventure in Space and Time, is the first director for Doctor Who. He's really damn good. I really like him a lot. He's got like a proper manic energy that John Sim had, but just dialed up to 13.
That's immediately what I thought. Yeah,
and also like the little.
That's immediately what I thought. I was like, you've taken like John Sim Master and then you've like dialed it up to like 13 on the manic Time Lord.
Yeah.
Dial.
And then proceeds to blow up a plane and hopefully try and kill the companions. Please, 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 please kill the fam. If only. But no. They survive on into...
Well, that was dark. Jesus.
One can only hope. Unfortunately, they survive on into Spyfall Part 2. Again, another Chibnall one. Yay. I still hate that. I hate Spyfall as a title. I absolutely hate it. I don't care if it's a reference to Skyfall. It doesn't make sense.
Spyfall.
With the Chibnall.
Chibnall shall crumble.
Can't write for
Fans
shit.
will stand tall.
Fuck it all.
Together in the Spyfall.
This suddenly turned into the real podcast as a musical episode. I like that. Thanks, Dan.
Well, it would be a damn sight better than those two episodes combined, so...
Well, here's the thing, right? Because rewatching Spyfall Part 2, there's still a lot I really don't like, especially a bit towards the end. There's some really stupid stuff, but on the whole, I actually think it's pretty good. I think it's actually better than the first one. Despite the fact that the pacing... Well, I mean, it feels like a very different episode deliberately. Like, it doubles down on the Doctor versus the Master. Feels like an absolute fan wank for like, classic Doctor Who fans.
What? What?
There we go. It worked. Excellent. My theory was correct.
Oh, dear lordy.
Yeah.
The explicitness in these episodes is just getting out of control.
It only seemed fair. You know, we are not very happy.
Yeah, that's true. That gives us a reason to be explicit.
It does.
To express our anger.
So it's all about the Doctor and the Master and Classic Who, weirdly, but then anything surrounding the Lighty people and the fam and Premier In Dude
The Lighty
is just completely thrown to one side, and they have absolutely nothing to do. I think Lenny Henry kills his mother. Not like the actor, the character.
Maybe this is just me, personally. I mean, surely I can't be the only one who thinks this, but when the light people actually light up, it is actually the most blinding thing ever. Like, your eyes are just, like, adjusting, and then when it happens and the screen just goes, like, really, really blinding white, it's just like, for God's sake, cut it out.
Yeah, no.
Please.
I can definitely agree with that one.
It's like staring at the sun. My God.
So, as part of the cliffhanger from the last episode, the Doctor is suddenly in this weird alternate dimension with a load of pipes. Honestly, it looks like a map from bloody No Man's Sky, frankly, which is like little pipes hanging around everywhere. Then she's ranting about hiding in someone's liver for some reason. I don't know where the fuck that came from.
I mean, why ever not?
And then runs into a mysterious woman from the 1800s. We don't know who she is. And she seems perfectly fine being there. She's just like, oh, yeah, it's absolutely fine. I actually brought...
Oh, no, she's so chill.
Yeah, I actually brought a deck chair as well. It's absolutely lovely. It's absolutely spiffing and all that sort of stuff.
Like, sat there with a little cup of tea. Oh, I didn't see you there.
In reality, this is Ada Lovelace, an actual person from history who's one of the first people to devise the concept of the computer, which we only know because we're told. I'm like, Chibnall, Chris, learn, go back to school, stay at school, do school again because you're not passing. That's all. So what we do end up happening is a journey through time, trying to understand the full situation as well as the Master dipping in and out, trying to find the Doctor. We then cut to Paris in World War II, with our heroes meeting Noor Inayat Khan, who's a spy. Don't know how she's connected to computers. I'm probably missing something. Not gonna lie, I did look on Wikipedia. I kind of gave up after about 12 seconds because I thought, oh shit, I'm actually researching stuff for Doctor Who. Nope, never mind. Get rid.
Scrap
Yeah.
it.
I do actually like the sequences quite a bit, especially the moments when they arrive. The first bit with Ada Lovelace, and the Master rocks up with his tissue compression device, which is awesome. I want one.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really want one. The things I would do with that.
Well, you're not getting one.
There is a list.
Yeah, exactly.
There is a very long list of people
That's
I
why
would
you're
use
not
that on.
getting one.
Don't worry, Dan. You aren't on that list. You are on the other list,
I'm surprised.
which I'm not going to tell
What's the
you
other
about.
list? Oh, great. Mystery, great.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the Master, because we're going to talk a little bit more about him in the context of this episode, because he's actually got stuff to do in this. As I say, he's got that chaotic mindset of the John Sim Master, and I do love the chemistry between him and Jodie Whittaker. Like, that bit when he tells her to kneel, and she just scoffs at him. Yeah,
I really like that. I was like, oh, you're an evil bastard, aren't you?
Yeah, like, you know what it is? Like, Whittaker in this is just so much better than she was in Series 11. And again, I don't want to act like, it's the actor's fault, because it's not. Because the writing's still iffy with this Doctor, which I'll get to in just a few seconds.
I don't think it's as bad. I mean, there's certainly some episodes in this way, you could say it's... I wouldn't say it's as bad as Series 11, though. That is just something else entirely.
I do like how they go back to the classic era with the Doctor and the Master communicating through contact. But instead of doing, like, the flashy head thing, the basically just do The Last Jedi. And I was like, this is very Star Wars all of a sudden. Like, you are actually ripping off Star Wars of all things now, which, to be honest, I don't mind, because I like that concept in that film, which I think is terrific. I'm allowed to say that 5 years on, I think. Am I allowed to? I don't actually know. Are people still salty about The Last Jedi? I'm not. It was a film.
It was.
It was. So the confrontation on the Eiffel Tower. Right. I'm not sure how much you picked up on this, but I'm going to talk about a very specific moment that I think is quite problematic. I think you know exactly which bit this is. I
think so. I think
so. So you've got the two confronting each other, and the Doctor beats the Master by using Morse code to sort of leave a message for the Nazis on their answering machine. I was saying, by the way, the guy I'm talking to, he's actually a spy. Could you come and get him, please? Something to that avail. So beats him, just like that. And then takes it upon herself, because bear in mind, because at this point the Doctor's posing as a Nazi. No, sorry.
I was gonna say. Right, let's just rewind that, right? The Doctor is not posing as a Nazi. Jesus Christmas, Regan.
Well, that being said, she might as well be, because it's the Master posing as a Nazi with the perception filter, so he looks Aryan. Okay, Chris, that's an interesting idea to go with. And then she uses her sonic spew driver to then disable the perception filter to show his true self to the Nazis, and then says to him, now they'll see the real you. You've basically just sentenced him to death. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, shooting spiders, absolutely not. Not allowed to do that. You want to kill Toothless? No, you can't do that. That is wrong. Leaving the Master to be tortured by the Nazis, however, yeah, it's fine. It's alright. It's a perfectly normal
Again, nobody questions it. Our companions don't question it.
No, because they aren't there to do it, and even then they're still in there. I'm just sat there thinking, what the fuck is this? Like...
Yeah, I remember watching that. I was just like, Chibnall.
Why? Chibnall.
Why?
It is
like, you've got a Time Lord, an evil Time Lord, and she uses the sonic spew driver once, and bam, Master Technology is just like, one little V of the spew driver, and his perceptions filter's gone. And the Doctor's like, right,
Okay.
There they are. Here he is. Go get him.
I'm just sat there thinking,
Like,
you
are
actually
you
thought that
serious?
this was a good idea. Like, oh my god. That being said,
a
I
pretty
don't
bad
know
idea, I'll
if it's
give you
the
that.
worst Doctor moment in this series, because I do have one other one that I actually think might be slightly worse. Just only slightly, though. It's fucking close.
Just
Yeah,
slightly.
slightly.
Just slightly.
Oh yeah, and also, Gallifrey has been blown up again. It is the unluckiest planet in the universe. It's like, yay, we're back. Oh,
It
we're
really
gone. Oh,
is.
yes, we're back. Here we go. We're back in it. Oh, never mind.
It really is.
Also, okay, you've made the Daleks look useless by suggesting that the Master was able to wipe out Gallifrey on his own. Like, if he was able to do that all this time... What? We're only on episode
I guess
2
the
and I'm
Time
losing
War
the
just
plot.
doesn't exist.
Again, I like this episode. It's just everything in the final 10 or 15 minutes is absolutely wank. But no, actually, one of the bigger reveals is actually the fact that we actually have a story arc with the Timeless Child. We'll talk more about this in the finale because we've got everything to say. That's all I'll say, actually, for that little bit, is the fact that...
The timeless continuity, more like.
But the fact that 13 has no dialogue in this entire sequence of her going to Gallifrey and then talking to the Master, I think is actually really good. I think it's really solid there. It's a shame about everything else.
Well, yeah, because you can actually see that, like, she's in pain, clearly. You know, I do dig it. I was kind of wanting it to be silent because I just wanted her to, like, take it all in, which I'm glad it went that way rather than her just going, it's destroyed.
Oh no!
Or something like that. I would just be like, we don't need a Ryan. We don't need an oh no. Again,
No, we
we
don't.
don't. Just stand there in silence and just have a tear or something, please. You did that. Well done. Nice one, Chris. You did something right.
That's a shame, because he didn't actually do that.
Not very, though.
Moving on, though,
Turd.
to an even bigger turd. Benny! Where's my Benny? Orphan 55. Oh, I wish I was an orphan. After watching this episode. Oh, what a fucking train wreck. It's just a...
A train wreck. A train wreck is putting it nicely.
Oh,
Regan.
yeah. Devoid of any original ideas. Some of the most annoying characters I've ever seen. Benny! Rubbish villains.
Benny! Where's my Benny?
And one of the worst attempts at social commentary this era has ever tried to do. This is one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who, just full stop. I'm happy to say that.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
But what do you think, Dan? What do you think about Orphan 55? Silence.
Where to even begin?
Well, we could begin with...
It is just absolutely rubbish. Like, I was 10 minutes into this episode where I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna, like, go, like, read or something like that while just leaving this on and just saying I watched it. Because, let's face it, it's just not interesting. It has some of the most annoying-ass characters in it. Benny's missus in particular.
I love the bit. Here's like, I laughed so hard when I first watched it when like he's like trapped outside the truck thing with like the dregs, and he's like,
Oh yeah, the friggin'
Yeah.
APC thing.
first question, darling, will you marry me? Oh yes, of course, Benny. I want to marry you, Benny.
Second question, will you shoot
Will
me?
you fucking kill me? I'm like, mate, I'm there. I'm absolutely there.
If it'll shut your wife up happily.
You know, here's the thing. The only decent thing in this is actually the design of the dregs. I actually think that's quite good.
Do you know what they remind me of?
A grey, hairless version, thick version of the Grinch. I'm thinking that.
Yes, but I was more thinking of the...
No,
I have no clue what the hell it is
don't
called.
see it.
It's the episode with the Peter Kay alien
The
in it.
Hoiks.
The
The
Hoiks.
Hoiks.
Yes. It's basically just a grey version of the Hoiks. It's like a really like vampiric Hoiks.
I'd rather just have the Hoiks, to be honest. The Hoikses. The Hoiks eye.
I think I'd not have either of them, to be
Well,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah, look, the design is pretty cool, but the whole backstory into them is just, like, so predictable. I knew for a goddamn fact this episode was going to end with, it's just one of many versions of how Earth becomes. I'm like, yep, saw that one coming.
Well,
cheers, Chris, you absolute fish finger.
You know what it is, like, it's not even a twist because it is so bloody obvious. Like, the moment they land on the planet, you're like, it's just going to be Earth, because there's nothing else you could do with that premise. There's just nothing. And it preaches about how sort of, like, ahead of the times it is and stuff like that, but it barely passed that because it doesn't do anything with it. We've just seen it 1,000 times.
Do you know what it is? It's literally just, like, a friggin', like, apocalypse version of New Earth, but there's no kitty cats. There's just really mutated kitty cats, we'll say.
I was also getting a lot of Midnight vibes as well, especially with the truck. But that ending, like, I'm just speedrunning through this episode because sod it, because there's nothing else. I mean, you know, there's
nothing good about it. It's just so boring.
Yeah. And then somehow it's the most convoluted ending I've ever seen from a Doctor Who episode, where they suddenly get to a teleporter with a computer virus worm thing.
Oh, I hated that.
And then they just appear back on the TARDIS.
I hated it.
And you're like, oh, have you just left everyone else to die? Okay, then. Cool.
Yeah.
And it ends...
Like, again, the Doctor and her decisions.
Yeah. And you might as well just have 13 just look at the camera as she's, like, spouting out all this stuff about climate change. And I'm like, yes, I get that it's important. And, you know, there's been social and political commentary in Doctor Who for years. I'm not, like, saying that isn't a thing. I'm saying it's been done way better than this. Like, again, with Series 10 talking about capitalism in Oxygen, and then Kablam doing the exact same thing in Series 11 and doing it badly, this tries to preach climate change. I'm like, all it says is, hey, climate change is bad. I'm like, yeah. What else?
And?
What else have you got? Nothing else. It's staggeringly simplistic and obvious, and it just could have been a lot better. Because there probably is a way you could have done Orphan 55, or just don't do it, frankly. Especially because...
Or just don't do it and come up with a better episode entirely.
The only other bit that I actually quite
way.
like is the concept of naming a planet an orphan planet if it's unable to be, like, populated. I actually like that as, like, a concept. You could do that in the future. I'd like to see that. Just not this one.
Yeah, just not this episode, please. Please.
Then next up we've got Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Really awesome title. Finally, we've actually got a decent title. Relatively okay episode overall.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's relatively alright.
Yeah, it is thoroughly meh, as opposed to the rest, which is consistently blech. I really like the actor who plays Nikola Tesla, Goran Visnik, who was also recently, I didn't actually realise, he was in the new Hellraiser, as it turns out.
Is he? I'm going to have to freaking check this.
I saw his face in Hellraiser. I was like, I swear I've seen you for somewhere. I actually thought he was the actor who played Dracula in the BBC series, also by Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss. But no, that was Class Bang, however you pronounce his name. Sorry.
Who's he called again? I'm so forgetful.
Goran Visnik. I think that's how you basically pronounce it.
Yeah, he's Voight. Yeah. He's Voight. You know the main villain in the weird mansion thing. He's him. What the hell?
I know, it's weird.
Oh my life. That's so bizarre.
But yeah, I think he's really good in this, as is Thomas Edison as well. Is just a complete arse. That being said...
Oh, he is. He's literally the stereotypical American arsehole.
Yeah, writing is still really not subtle, and I honestly do not buy for a second that none of the companions know who Nikola Tesla is. I'm sorry. I just don't buy that at all.
Oh, no.
But otherwise, I've seen weird.
I didn't buy that at all. Oh, yes.
But
I've seen a lot way worse, but
yeah.
I would have expected, at least the companions to at least have heard of him in some respect, even if they don't know a lot about him.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Could have been, it could have literally been that one of the companions knows a bit more about them than another one. That would have been fine. You don't have to go into detail about how they know him. Just we read about him in school. That would have been fine.
But I do like the way they present Tesla here. Like, he's charming and likable, but he's also like sad and lonely. Like, he's got such a tremendous mind and thought process, but nobody's listening to him. And I think it's certainly one of the better historical celebrity things that Doctor Who's done, which is always very hit and miss. In fact, actually, when I was watching it, the first thing I actually thought of was Vincent van Gogh in Vincent and the Doctor. I thought, are you actually going to go down this route? Because I thought you actually could, just don't actually rip off the ending of Vincent and the Doctor, which is still tear-inducing.
Don't, because I'll cry.
Good, because that is a fantastic episode. But yeah, as I say, it's like I still hate how everyone, well, the few that actually recognise him, how they're just fanboy over him. And I'm just like, stop it. Like, please, you're creeping him out and he's going to run away and it's going to be a mini-sword now instead. But our villains are space scorpions. Woo!
That are totally not ripped off from whatever that spider thing is called in The Runaway Bride.
Yeah. This is like the Queen of the Rachnos's sort of like Raji...
Distant cousin.
Raji younger sister. Though actually, do you recognise her? As in the actress?
I want to say kinda, but I just don't know who though. Like,
that's fine. Queen of the Skithra is played by Anjali Mohindra, as in Rani from the Sarah Jane Adventures.
is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which
wasn't expecting that.
Well, here's the thing, right? When I first heard that she was going to be in Doctor Who, I was like, oh my god, you're actually going to put Rani in this. Like, absolutely fantastic. I'd love to see that. They have more recently, because there was that Doctor Who podcast thing that came out over the summer that I think we mentioned, like, when we were still doing news segments, like Doctor Who Redacted or something. I didn't actually listen to it, as it turns out. But Rani does actually have an appearance in that. And actually meets I think she meets the 13th Doctor at some point. I'm like, I want to see that, like, actually in person. That'd be awesome. I know she's getting her own Big Finish audio series, which is awesome because I love that character. And she is actually pretty good in this, even if, you know, as I say, she is just like a discount version of the Empress of the Rachnos because the design is a bit budget.
Yeah, it's the headpiece thing. I'm like, yeah, this is just like your distant cousin or something like that.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Poundland version of the Rachnos, frankly.
The Poundland version of the Rachnos, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I mean, like the regular Scorpion Skithra things are actually really cool, really really creepy.
Yeah, they're pretty terrifying. I wouldn't like one of them scuttling towards me. Put it that way.
Yeah. Though I do think it's a bit unsubtle to have the Skithra basically be the alien version of Thomas Edison, where they just keep on taking other people's things and then taking credit for it. I'm like, that's a bit too. It's a bit too on the nose. Also, no offense, if they're stealing things from other people, why the hell does their ship actually look like a giant scorpion?
Yeah.
Unless they stole it from
why
like
is the
another
doctor
race
like,
of giant
this ship
scorpions.
is stolen? Yeah, like maybe there's like another race. Because the doctors even say, oh, you've got a stolen ship. But I'm like, are you sure? Because it looks very scorpion-like. Unless there's another race of scorpion people.
Yeah, I mean, they're by no means the best villains on the planet. And as I say, the ending's still really ropey when Yaz says something along the lines of when it comes to like talking about how Nikola Tesla dies penniless and no one realizes for like a couple of days. And she's like, people deserve to know his story. I'm like, can you stop looking towards the camera, Yaz? Can you just look towards the doctor, please? I'm like, we know this. Like, again, with like the celebrity...
I hate the lecture parts of it, like where
definitely.
Chibnall just decides to just add in like little lecture things with the character staring at the camera as if it's like you. I'm just like, no, stop. It just gets to a point of being cringy as hell. Like, I'm like, can you just look at the doctor? Just tell the doctor. Please, we know you need to tell the doctor.
Please tell them right now. Please.
Please.
But yeah, overall, it's still a decent episode. I'll give them that.
Oh yeah, definitely better than the previous bloody episode.
Well, shall we move on to episode 5? Fugitive of the Jejune.
Oh, right, okay.
I'll give the episode some credit.
I absolutely love the fact that the Space Rhino has a mohawk now.
Oh, I love the mohawk.
I also just love the fact, and I laughed way too hard at this, when the Jadoon land in Gloucestershire, of all places, like of all the places in the UK, it has to be
Gloucester.
quiet old Gloucestershire. Yeah. And they go into like the coffee shop in search of the fugitive, and the coffee shop owner pushes him, and like I can't remember his bloody name, but the leader of the Jadoon just goes up to him, and it's almost like, you fucking what?
My favourite...
You what, mate?
My favourite Jadoon bit is when, I forget her name, the true villain, technically, the Time Lady one, who executes Lee.
Yeah.
And you see the Jadoon in the background, and it's some of the finest acting I've ever seen from a prosthetic rhino head, which is a line I never thought I'd ever say, but he literally just goes...
Yeah.
I'm like, please tell me.
There's a few instances of that. It's like the bloody bits with when the Doctor's coming out with all the bullshit about, having a stupid order on the planet and that. I think this is under the protection of Law 13 or something like that.
Something like that.
And the Rhino's just like...
I do actually. I really cringe so hard at the bit where like they try and reference Tennant's line from Smith and Jones when she says, "There's a Jadoon platoon and it's near the moon," and I'm like, "Oh, stop it!" Like, Christ.
Oh yeah,
Christ Almighty.
I felt my spine cramp up a bit with cringe with that one. I was like, just don't.
Did you also know that somehow the cameras got into Chris Chibnall's house for one brief shot in this episode when the guy pushes the cake towards Lee and then just says, you can do better? It was that.
Yeah.
Someone sent him that. It's like, you can do better. No, sorry, it wasn't to Lee, it was to Ruth, which we'll get to. We'll get to that.
Ruth.
But I actually like the Jadoon quite a bit in this. For one, I think the design of them is, it is virtually identical, but the puppetry has been done far better this time. They actually look like...
Oh, yeah.
They look really, really good. But also, they are the kind of aliens where they can't ever be the focus because they're just so specific. Like, they can only exist...
Well, yeah, they're just basically like alien mercenaries for hire.
Rhino police.
That's their entire thing. Yeah, basically the Rhino police.
I also really want to know, what is the in-universe reason for why rhinos on Earth look like the Jadoon? Like, I really want to know why. Like, what did they do? Like, was it a rhino and a human that got a little bit too happy and then went into space and then suddenly... Dan's losing the plot already. What the fuck was that?
I ran out of breath, and that's that moment of a sexy jazz solo.
Oh, Jesus. But yeah,
I've got to wonder what on earth made that really questionable design. I mean, it's the fact that we're big stompy boots as well. It's like, we're here.
Mm-hmm. And they've also got cannons.
If you don't see us, you'll hear us. Yes. And they have absolutely no chill when you push them. You just get executed.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, frankly.
Sentence. Death.
Ugh, they failed me. God damn it. Let's talk about the first big thing that no one knew was going to happen. Captain Jack's back. Pointless. Fucking pointless. It doesn't do anything.
Well, it's basically just... He's just there for like, oh, he's finally back. But he has 2 minutes, if that. And it's like, tell the Doctor, beware of the lone Cyberman.
Yeah.
Done.
As in, tell the companions about the story arc that they're going to be involved with that he has absolutely nothing to do with. Like, I was like, okay, he's going to appear in the series finale. Nope. Has nothing to do with it.
No.
Like, he exists.
I was just
purely,
like, for God's sake.
Here's the thing, seeing him back was great, even if he looks a bit, he looks old. Sorry, John Farrell. he does look quite old now. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting to see him back. I mean, frankly, because no one really expected that. But also because it's not the type of episode that would have that sort of reveal in, because it's such a mundane episode for the most part.
Yeah.
Speaking of the not so mundane, again, there's not much to say on Jack because he's got nothing to do in this, or in the other appearance he's got. But we can get to that later.
Well, he literally stands there for 2 minutes and gives his lecture about a lone Cyberman to the Doctor's companions and not the Doctor. It's like they literally just play messenger, more or less.
It's like, are you the Doctor? No. Okay. Are you the Doctor? No. It's like, okay. Are you the Doctor? No. Oh, for fuck's sake, fine, see ya.
Are you the Doctor?
Forget this entirely. But the big one. Holy shit. We have a new Doctor. We have Jo Martin as Ruth / the Doctor. Okay. Let's get out the things that I like on this. There's not much. Okay. She's absolutely terrific as the Doctor. Like,
oh yeah.
Anytime that she's in a scene as the Doctor, even when 13's there, she completely outperforms her in every single regard. Like, she is so much more interesting. But also, she's also morally all over the place. But the episode does a good job at illustrating that that's not a good thing. Where was this for the last series and a half with your actual Doctor? Like, seriously. But the problem is, like, you bring her in and you make 13 absolutely pointless. Like, she has nothing to do in this episode beyond just look so confused for 50 minutes, which is what she's been doing for the last year and a half at this point. I hate the costume.
Well, she literally just becomes the companion.
Yeah.
She literally becomes the companion to the Doctor. It's like the Doctor, well, the new Doctor will say, it's like, don't do anything stupid. What does she do?
Yeah.
Does something stupid.
But yeah, I hate the costume though. I think it's terrible. Well, actually,
yeah, not a fan of it.
90% of it is good. I just don't like the weird multicolored shirt bit. I don't know what that is. That just looks weird.
Yeah.
I also hate. I mean, this isn't confirmed in this episode because it's still left ambiguous as to what's going on. I legitimately thought she was going to be like a multiverse Doctor, so hence why none of them could actually recognize each other. I thought I'd rather that, or just be a complete and total lie. It's the fact it's basically been confirmed that she exists before the first Doctor now, so William Hartnell's first Doctor isn't actually the first Doctor. I hate that that's even a thing. For one, it doesn't work, because we have actually seen Hartnell's Doctor steal the TARDIS before it becomes a police box, and yet the fugitive Doctor, her TARDIS is a police box. That doesn't work. I'm sorry, we have seen it.
No.
Now, unless someone edited the CCTV footage that we saw, it doesn't work. Like, I really, genuinely, I don't like it. Again, something we actually saw in Series 7 is the stealing of the TARDIS. I just think it's wholly unnecessary, and even considering that Chibnall himself actively said, earlier this year, he doesn't actually know where this Doctor fits in the overall timeline. That says everything. If you don't actually know, and you're not going to carry over onto what that's actually going to be, then what the hell was the point in it? Which we'll get to again later, but I'm not bitter.
My name's Chris Chibnall. Welcome to Jack. Today we're going to be destroying Doctor Who.
I really want to see Chibnall and Jackass now.
Oh, I just want to see him hit in the fucking testicles or something.
Yeah.
Because he fucking deserves it.
What do you think on this Doctor thing then?
Plank of wood.
Because I realize I've just said everything.
Again, it was very unexpected. I wasn't expecting to see another Doctor, but then immediately when it happened, I thought, all right, we're going in this direction. I'm now
We're
bored.
going backwards, stop it. Go forwards, have it be the future, please, but no.
Like, her performance, she literally becomes the Doctor, and the Doctor becomes the companion, as I said. Like, it's just... I just couldn't really give a toss, to be honest. I'm like, well, what is he trying to accomplish with this writing? Like, you can't just... I don't buy for 1 minute that this is, like, before the first Doctor. I don't buy that one bit. Like, hence why I say Chris Chibnall... Welcome to Jackass. I'm going to destroy Doctor Who entirely.
No, it's just... It's such a weird episode. Like, I do give it credit for just going all out and going, you know what, we're halfway through the series. Let's do something completely off-kilter, which I don't mind. I like when the show goes completely nuts. Just make it work. And in the context of this, it's all just set up, and virtually none of it is paid off, bar one thing.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. But first off, Dan, did you know, right, that we shouldn't be littering on this planet, and plastic is really, really bad and dangerous and all that shit? Yes, we have another Doctor Who episode doing some good old climate change commentary.
really hated this episode.
I was curious on, do you think this is worse than Orphan 55?
Stop littering!
Because I don't think it is. I think it's slightly better, but not by much.
I mean, not by a lot. I mean, they're pretty level, to be honest. It's just like, I don't think I'd watch either of them again, put it that way.
No.
Because they're both pretty terrible.
Yeah, we'll just speed run through this one, because I haven't got much to say on this one beyond, again, just echoing a lot of...
Stop littering!
Yeah. I think the design of the Praxeus virus is pretty cool. Even if it just looks like a load of shark teeth that have been sort of glued to someone's face.
Yeah.
Just like someone looked at Tim Shaw from the previous series and thought, instead of human teeth, what if it was shark teeth? Episode. Script. Direction. Episode. Release. Kill.
It's my kind of version of Shark's Tale.
No. Do you know what? I've only seen 15 minutes of Shark Tale, and I never want to see anything else of it. I think I've actually played more of the Shark Tale game on the PS2. I don't even know the plot of Shark Tale. Like, why do they have public transport in the ocean? Why?
I don't know, okay. Why do they have a car wash dedicated to whales? I don't know.
A whale wash?
Yeah. And the song Working at the Car Wash is freaking playing over the thing. It makes no sense.
How the hell are they playing music underwater? Surely it would just be like... I
don't know.
It would just sound like fucking Bane, apparently. I really love how we've just gone on a proper tangent about Shark Tale instead of talking about this episode.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show what kind of smut this episode is, if we could happily go on a tangent about a DreamWorks picture.
Was it DreamWorks? Holy shit.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, there's a parody of the birds in this, with some birds flying around, and the guy's like...
Right, that's another reason why I absolutely detest this episode, right? If you're going to shit on Alfred Hitchcock's legacy, right, just don't do it. I'm sorry, Chris, right? But what is wrong with you? Like, you really, really, really piss me off.
I can't wait to get to
You
the rest of it.
You absolute lettuce. What are you doing? Like, I knew for a fact the thing with the birds was just an absolute piss take of the birds. I was just like, yeah.
That's the thing.
Well done, Chibbers. You've done it again.
He's absolutely outdone himself. Again, I mean, this isn't even entirely written by him. It was written by Pete McTeague, who I think wrote It Takes You Away.
But I guarantee
in the last series, but...
Chibbers wrote the stupid parts of that episode. Not that the episode's not stupid. It is stupid. It's just people turning into teeth and disintegrating.
Yeah. It is actually interesting when you look how he's like co-written a lot of these scripts. This is actually a segment I've got for the Series 13 one, where it's a lot more obvious to tell who's written who, because I think episode 3 of that one, or 4, I forget, 4, the writer of that one did the best episode of Series 12, which we'll get to. And you can tell the differences between the two writers in that one. It flip-flops like a massive flip-flop.
Well, again, you can just tell the difference between Chris Chibnall's writing and other writers. So...
Anyway, yeah. Practice is crap, if that wasn't obvious enough. I'd say it was nice and quick, but we did go on a tangent about Shark Tale.
Oh, it was not. It was not quick.
No, it wasn't.
Well, our tangent was probably better than the entire episode. To be honest.
It was,
I mean, that
because
episode
it's
just
us.
dragged for me so much. Like, I kid you not, Regan, every 5 minutes I was just checking how long I had left of this absolute smut of an episode. I was just like...
That being said...
I think I'd rather contract praxis than ever watch that again.
So you want to explode on the beach? We all do, actually.
Yes. It's been a dream since I was 3 years old.
What the hell were your dreams before then?
You don't want to know.
The land of sugar and donuts. I'm actually thinking of that scene out of Shark Boy and Lava Girl with the planet of like ice cream and shit or whatever. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. I don't like that film.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That being said, Dan, can you hear me? Can you actually hear me right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
This one may just stop. This one made me quite angry because this is like another, obviously, like commentary episode, this time mental health. And that is a very fine line to try and tackle. And there is some decent stuff in it, mostly with Yaz in certain bits. Surprisingly, she actually has some decent stuff to do. There's some creepy fingers. That's quite creepy.
Oh, do you know what it is? That villain, right? I'm sorry, but it's just basically the Wish equivalent of Pinhead.
Yeah.
It is. He has the gown and everything.
Yeah.
And then another, like, discount Cenobite shows up. I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, I've not got much to say on them, frankly. They're not very interesting.
The finger ones creep me out. That was about it.
That's about it. But yeah, like, talking about, mental health and anything nowadays, it's extremely important. It's a major thing.
Line.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So it's a very delicate subject that has to be taken with care. So why would you give it to Chibnall? Like, that being said, I mean, like, there's a lot of telling, not showing again, as ever, a staple of the Chibnall era.
Yep.
I do like how it does delve into the companions' psyches across the episode, like what, like, they're like really like afraid of. With Ryan, it's like being out of touch with his friends. With Yaz, it was running away from her family. With Graham, it's his cancer scares. We get a brief cameo from Grace again, which actually quite heartbreaking. I actually think, for a brief moment, actually, before we get onto the shitty moment, the bits when Graham's in the hospital bed and stuff, I actually think what would have made that scene better, especially with Grace being there, is having, despite in my head it looking really, really weird, is having the hospital bed and Graham being on top of the crane from Woman Who Fell to Earth.
Oh, yeah, I would have preferred that, because obviously, that is the episode that she dies, so it would have made it, like, really quite haunting if they did it that way, so I'm in total agreement there, like.
This bit, though. Right, look, okay, I've heard as many defences on this scene as is humanly possible, and I can totally buy why people would like this. So you have, at the end of this episode, you have Graham, after everything, opening up about how he's terrified that the cancer can come back. He doesn't talk about this to Ryan, his grandson. He doesn't speak about it to Yaz or his mates from the bus thing or whatever. He talks about it to the Doctor. Someone who's lived for like 2,500 years and has seen so much stuff. Like the perfect person to talk to about that. Like they can have some proper words of wisdom. Her response to him like opening up about this sickened me. Like genuinely, I hated it. Like she might as well have said, I don't know what the fuck to do. Go off. You're on your own. See ya. And then also says, I'm also really socially awkward. Like, no one who's socially awkward talks like that. Like, I'm socially awkward. I'm terrible with people. I'm not going to turn around and say that unless I'm a Chris Chibnall character. Like, no one talks like that.
Especially with it being like cancer as well. Like,
exactly,
it's
that's
a
even
very
worse.
fine line. It's a very, very fine line. It hits close to a lot of people. It hits close to me. So yeah,
Same as well.
I agree with that. It pissed me off quite a bit. I'm like, you know, you're a writer, for God's sake. Right. Don't just give us some absolutely pathetic excuse for a character to turn around and go, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I want some emotion. I don't just want some blunt reply.
Thing is, right?
Like, I bet you though, like every other character, like without looking at the script, I bet you Jodie Whittaker's idea of connecting in that scene would have been so different. So different. Because again, Whittaker isn't the problem.
No, it's not.
It's the writing.
Never has been. And I do think, like, you could make that response work if it was from Ryan. Because he's someone who hasn't seen everything. I mean, like, he's seen lots of stuff in the universe. He hasn't faced a lot of the harsh realities on Earth. That could work. Yaz just about, but she hasn't got a character.
It probably would have worked. It would have worked better for sure, obviously, because with him being his grandson. I think that, I mean, not that it would ever happen because it was Chibber's writing.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's then an arc for Ryan to go down into, like, you know, well, you know, I've lost my mum. Or his aunt or whoever it is. I can't really remember, to be honest. Is it his aunt?
His nan.
His nan,
Grace
that's it.
the nan.
His nan. He loses his nan, and then, you know, Graham is terrified that, you know, he's going to get the cancer back. That should, like, be Ryan instead, because then that affects that character in future episodes. But, of course, that didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
It would have made sense. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, definitely. You know, there are so many ways you could have done it, and again, with such a very, like, delicate topic. And I think when I heard that they were going to do something like with that, I thought, if it was in another era, with a different writer, I'd be genuinely intrigued. But, you know, despite the fact that Chibnall isn't, like, the lead writer, but he's one of them, and I'm just sat there thinking, I hate it. Like, and I know some people have said the reason they like her response is because it feels like a very real response from someone who's just like, I can't give you, like, those words of advice. That would make sense from us, who were, like, in our mid-20s, not in our mid-2,500s. Like, not that I'm, like...
Like, it doesn't really connect. It really doesn't. I mean, again, with the Doctor being, like, 2,000 years old, it'd make more sense to, like, connect it with, like, even just a human companion. Like, not the Time Lord who's, like, 2,000 years old. Because you're not going to get, like, a realistic response from it. You're just going to get, like, a typical 13th Doctor reply. Like, you don't... I think, honestly, that scene is just been devised to carry some emotional, like, weight to it, if that makes sense. But you just don't feel it. It just pisses you off.
Yeah, and it really did at the time. I was like...
Like, the idea behind it is, like, oh, it wants to make you sad, but because it's not done right, it just does the opposite. It just hacks you off. It's like there's a thin line, and you've just really, really stepped over
No,
it.
definitely. You know, as I said, there's so many ways you could have done it, and it just falls flat on its arse. That being said, this is actually the first time I've been smiling in this entire episode, because I'm now ready to finally talk about the best episode of Doctor Who in 3 years. Also, conveniently enough, the best since the Series 10 finale, which also featured Cybermen, The Haunting of Villa Diodati. Not written by Chris Chibnall, which you can tell immediately. Written by Maxine Alderton, first-time writer to the show.
Yes.
She just comes in and crushes it. As I say, with the first, genuinely, not just good, but great episode of Doctor Who in years.
Oh, it's
The
fun.
Lone Sideman is absolutely terrific. Mary Shelley and her friends are fantastic. But most importantly, for me, the Doctor is absolutely great. This is the first time I can actually say I like the 13th Doctor. Genuinely love this episode. I could talk about it for hours. But we've already been talking for just over an hour, so I can't do that, unfortunately. But I'm guessing that you're pretty similar on that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, considering the last episode as well, a huge step up. And again, for a first-time writer, that just goes to show that, that Chibnall isn't exactly the best writer when a first-time writer for Doctor Who can absolutely crush it. Like, that previous episode is nothing. I mean, some of those episodes are absolutely nothing on this episode. It's so good. I love the Lone Cyberman. I think it's really quite terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's generally, like, really creepy. It's just, like, some, like, half-human, half-Cyberman. It's really quite terrifying. Mary Shelley, again, famous author, Frankenstein, dug that instantly.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that actually, because this isn't the first time that Doctor Who, Mary Shelley, and the Cybermen have actually crossed paths.
Yeah, she's popped up a couple of times.
Yes, there's a Big Finish story in 2011 with the 8th Doctor called The Silver Turk that featured Mary Shelley as a temporary companion for the 8th Doctor and meeting a Mondasian Cyberman and finding inspiration in that for Frankenstein. So it's a similar thing here, which now comes into question. Okay, so is Big Finish actually canon? Like, at all? Like, it's so flippant as to whether or not it's a thing. But frankly, when you say it out loud, Mary Shelley and a Cyberman, that's so perfect as like an idea. And I mean, everything with Mary Shelley and stuff is fantastic. So you've got Lake Geneva in Switzerland, 1816. You're trapped in a thunderstorm of preposterous, like, thunderstorms and everything. You've got Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, and the rest of their crew just stuck in the house. It's absolutely horrible outside. And they come up with, okay, let's see who can come up with the scariest horror story ever. And Mary Shelley hasn't written Frankenstein at this point. But then the Doctor and the fam rock up, and everything goes to shit. Not actually to shit, because I'll say it's a really, really damn good episode. And as I say, it does have similarities to the Silver Turk. Similar thing here with Ashad meeting Shelley here. One of the things I find fascinating with this one is that I love how even the dickhead characters like Lord Byron, you don't like them, but not because they're badly written. You don't like them because they're just dickheads. That's how good of a writer Maxine Olsen is, where you can make a dickhead character still really well written. So it's like a different kind of dislike. It's not like with not Donald Trump last series.
It's like interesting, like, there are dickhead character as you put it, but it's an interesting dickhead character.
No, I think it works really well because as I say, they are kind of they are what they are, frankly. That being said, what I actually find is really funny is that you've got Lord Byron in this episode that actually has a connection with Ada Lovelace from earlier on in the series.
All right.
Right. Because Ada Lovelace's father was Lord Byron. Oh. Which I love that. That's actually hilarious. But it also makes me think of the episode of Horrible Histories with Lord Byron when he's like presented as if he's like a vampire, and it's just like a rip-off of Twilight.
Oh, god damn it.
He's even got the same outfit as well, which I love. I'm like, oh my god, did you actually dress like that? Jesus.
Just needs the it just needs the cheesy like coffin sting when he comes to the coffin and says
I wouldn't have minded that, frankly. I really wouldn't. I also like the idea of using the perception filter to cover the entire house, so you can play around with the haunted house tropes of like people walking through walls and hands just walking around. I really like that a lot. Even if the setting that they use, if you actually notice the staircase, it's been seen 2 other times in Doctor Who. It was actually used in The Angels Take Manhattan, in the
Oh, bloody hell,
in the
yeah.
Battery Farm with
Oh,
Angels.
God, yeah.
But it was also used as Pete Tyler's house in the Cyberman 2-part in Series 2. I'm like...
It's the Pete Tyler one. That,
and I'm just sat there thinking...
I was really kicking my head in with it, thinking, like, I have seen this before in a Doctor Who episode. What the hell was it? But obviously, because this is like, series friggin' like 2 or 3 or something like that.
Series 2, yeah.
Absolutely years ago.
I mean, like, you got to think.
I was just like,
I was just sat there thinking, is one of the producers on this show sleeping with the person who actually owns this house? Because they've had it 3 times. I mean, you got me thinking. By like the 3rd time, they just open the door and the crew's just there and just like, yep, off you go. You've got just like, love, come on, we're going. They're going to be shooting another fucking episode again.
MTV Cribs Doctor Who edition.
Oh God.
This is my sweet house. This is where the Cybermen were.
And this is where another Cybermen were also.
This is where some weeping angels were.
3 different doctors, fucking hell.
And this is where some ghosts were.
Yeah. But let's talk about the actual villain of this episode. The Lone Cyberman, otherwise known as a Shard. Again, there was no like idea that he was going to pop up in this. We just knew it was Mary Shelley, and there was like some haunted house stuff. And I can remember watching it, and as soon as you see like the guy flickering over the lake, at first I actually thought it was one of the Kasavan things again. I thought, is this how you're going to tie it all together? Yeah. And then I thought for a second, no, Cyberman. It's got to be sure. I was really wanting it to be a Cyberman. And what it actually is, it's probably, I mean, it's very, very close. But it's probably my favourite Cyberman. Like, just like, as a character, a Shard, for this episode, it's really awkward because he's had more appearances than this. And he's spent more time as a crappy character. But in this episode, he's absolutely fantastic. I think it's terrific.
Yeah, total agreement there. I mean, I couldn't say it's like a favourite thing because, I mean, I just don't have like a favourite version thing. But I mean, I was very much in the same opinion with you when you see the like glimpse and you think, oh no, it's the bloody light people again, isn't it? Is that how you're going to do this episode? You're going to give legend Mary Shelley an encounter with the light people? Mm-hmm. Like, you've got to be kidding me. But it just works so well with Cybermen because it's basically just science fiction Frankenstein.
Yeah, it is literally Frankenstein.
More or less.
And it works so well with this particular version because he's not even fully converted. And thus his emotions are still present. Like, from the moment you can tell, because when he's trying to break down the door, he doesn't, and he just smashes the side of the wall in like a fit of rage and then just sort of stomps off. And I really like that. I like that a lot. Like, he's just legitimately terrifying. Like, you get that shot where like he can hear the baby crying, and immediately I was like, don't you dare. And it just cuts to like a very slow shot and he's just walking in and you can barely see him, but you can just hear like the cogs and the whirs going. And then he gets closer to like where like the woman and the baby is. I'm like, okay, which one are you actually going to kill? So he snaps the neck of the woman, which I thought, holy shit.
Oh, yeah, that was...
I was like, what? What age rating is this episode?
Yeah, I know.
And I thought, if you...
This turned into a horror film so quick.
Yeah, like, if you kill that baby. If you kill the baby, like, Jesus. But no, he doesn't. And you get that fantastic standoff with the doctor as he's trying to find information, which I'll get to in a second. I think the only bit that I don't really like, well, the other bit I like is towards the end when he's trying to play along with Mary Shelley when like she's talking about how did you used to be a father? And he's like, I had children and everything. And he's like, he talks about his name, and then he talks about how he slits his children's throats when they joined the resistance, and he enjoyed it. And I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this.
Like it again, it's with like the Frankenstein thing. It's like half Cyberman and then like half human. So you get like the human response to it. It's like, I was a father once. And then you get like that really like cold cybernetic being response of just like, killing doesn't matter to me. I'm like, oh, okay then. But I wasn't expecting that. I was like, I slit their throats when they joined the rebellion. I'm like, okay then, wow.
This is the direction we're going in.
Dark. This is where we're going with this.
Yeah. The only bit I find not very interesting is the whole stuff with it, and I'm really sorry, Dan. I know it has an actual name. I'm going to call it something different here, because I want to see your response to this. Ashad is looking for some cyber jizz. Give me the cyber jizz. Jizz.
Siberium.
The cybercom. Oh dear.
Oh, please, no. No, I knew you were going to do this. You know what it is? Like, I was thinking to myself, like, it's Siberium. Regan is obviously going to turn this into something, like, disgusting, isn't he? He's going to come up with, like, cyber jizz or, cyber sperm. One of the two.
No, the cyber mats are actually the cyber swim. They're just like little swimmers. Anyway.
We must find the egg!
Full disclosure, I'm giving like the name to that Siberium thing to Vortex07 because he was the one that came up with it first, and I laughed so fucking hard when he did a review of this episode. It was brilliant. Like, give me the cyber cheese. Otherwise, it feels very Terminator 2 with like the T-1000 stuff.
Yeah,
and it's a bit.
You can see a little bit of it, especially with like when you actually see the Siberium. You're like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger, I've seen it. With War Arnie.
And finally, talking about the 13th Doctor, absolutely terrific here. Like, it's just like the perfect blend
brilliant.
Of the eccentricities that Jodie brings to the past, but also something that this Doctor has severely lacked beyond decent writing. Is
character.
Not just that as well. Confidence. This Doctor is confident in this episode. Like, that entire standoff with her and Ashad when like they first actually meet. And like she's just messing around with him for the entire
It's
bit.
no wonder she wears that like hooded cloak. Like when something like awkward happens, like maybe she just goes like a tortoise and just into the coat.
Do you know what it is? Actually, she only ever uses the hood once, and it's in a promotional image for the show, and that's it. It's never actually used. So why is it there? I don't get it.
I mean, do you know what it is? It doesn't make sense, right? And it annoys me to death. I'm pretty sure it's the same episode. Like, she's drenched in... Yeah, it is. She's drenched in rain. She has a hood.
Oh, actually, no. Actually, I tell a lie. She does actually use the hood for that. But that's it. I think, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that is it.
Oh, yeah, also... it's nice to
God.
have an episode set in the past and the companions actually bother to dress period appropriately as opposed to in like denim in like denim jeans and jackets and shit. I actually like that. But the bit that I absolutely love in this bloody standoff is just two little bits which do so much to like characterize both Ashad and the Doctor is when Ashad's like, you irritate me. And then she's like,
Yes.
how very human. Just that, and that just tells you everything. I absolutely love it. Like, again, I could gush over this episode. I'm just so happy to be talking about it finally. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely superb. Very memorable episode.
And especially considering that she's able to...
much better than, like, a lot of these episodes.
And I also like how she's able to, like, judge... Calm down. She's able to judge the entire situation without the Sonic for once. Like, that's just so nice. And it genuinely gave me hope that this is like the first step in 13 finally getting a time to shine. That wasn't the case. It was just this episode. let's move on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Again, I'd love to talk about this episode forever. Really would.
But we can't.
No, we've got to get to the finale. 3 episodes left. Yeah.
No.
Technically, I mean, I wouldn't really class this as like the second part of a 3-parter. I still think of it as a 2-part, whatever. Ascension of the Cybermen. Once again written by the Fuhrer himself, Chris Chibnall.
Jesus. Right, okay. First and foremost, you can really see that Chris Chibnall has a hard-on for classic era.
Give me 1963 to 1989. Oh my god!
God.
I can't think about anything else anymore.
Give me the Tom Baker Cybermen, but add in a mix of the 12th Doctor Cybermen as well, please.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a second.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, yep, Tom Baker Cybermen. Which I don't really mind, but...
Yeah, look, I mean, when I first watched this episode, I remember liking it quite a bit. Like, I actually went back through, because it turns out when I still used Twitter, like, properly...
Good title. I
Yeah.
mean, that's probably the
Yeah, I
only
like the title.
good thing about it.
I did, like, live... like just like immediate reviews of the episodes as they went out on Twitter, and I actually did label this as like Chris Chibnall's best episode. No, it's not. No, it's actually in retrospect still crap. Like for one, first of all, I do like the concept of like using the cyber wars as a backdrop. Like I've wanted to see that for a very long
Yeah.
time. It's a shame that the Cybermen that's used are the bloody cyber swans. I hate them. I'm sorry, I still hate them. Ashad is crap. Has nothing to do now. Just
But his whole entire thing is just raising a Cyberman army, but it's been done so bloody much.
Yeah.
And as a man who has an absolute hard-on for the classic era, he should know this. But no, let's just do it another time.
now, you know, when we spoke about Ashad in the previous episode, we spoke about how, you know, it's very subtly done as to how we learn more about his character, about who he is. There's a scene in this episode where the Doctor confronts Ashad via space zoom and literally exposits his character and his motivations to his face and to us, and his response is, "You are correct." What in the actual arse?
Yeah, that bit, I honestly had my hands in my head, just shaking my
Yeah,
head.
this is why I class Ashad as a one-time villain, because he's just not the same character under a different writer. It's atrocious.
No.
And again, I love the design. I genuinely really love the design of Ashad, but he's just not the actual same character we saw a week prior.
Unfortunately, the design just isn't enough in this episode. Like, he's just absolutely naff as hell. He's so generic.
You do also...
He's just basically he's basically just a half human, half Cyberman leader at this point.
Yeah, you do also have the flying...
Rise, my minions! Rise!
Yeah, you still have the flying Cyberman heads as well. I was like, fuck off. No.
Yeah, I was a bit lost there. I was like, couldn't you just do the little cyber mice, please?
I think it would be funnier if they just used different Cybermen heads from like different eras, and you saw like a flying Mondasian one, and the cloth is just like flapping along in the wind.
That's what's given it its like air propulsion.
Yeah. The other bit.
I think it would have been even funnier if it was the cyber leader from Two of the Cybermen with that cocoon. That would have been hilarious.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'd still prefer to see that, especially with like the three with like the 3 fingers instead of 5. I'm like, why have you got 3 fingers all of a sudden? That is so impractical.
Like, I mean, for Christ's sake, you asked them to sign their signature, you'd be absolutely screwed.
Speaking of those other Cybermen, Cyber Warriors, they're called, with spikes on their shoulders as if they're wearing your fucking jackets from college. You knew I had to reference that. You just knew.
Oh
They
yes,
are
I
punky
knew it. I knew
Cybermen.
it.
Cyberpunks.
Punky cyber.
Delete.
God damn it!
Delete.
You've had this prepared, haven't you?
I've had this script for a
God's
very long
sake.
time, Dan. Just like as soon as I know, okay, we're gonna do Doctor Who, right? I'm gonna do the Chibnall era stuff first.
Like, I didn't mind the whole thing of like the classic Cyberman design combined with the newer Cyberman stuff, but then when they added spikes to it, I'm just like, all right then, okie dokie. I mean, why spikes? Why?
I don't get it.
Like,
I think
they don't need to impale anyone.
well, that's the thing, because I
They
mean,
have
like,
laser thingies.
okay, because I mean, it's similar to the last versions with the we're introduced in the Neil Gaiman one in Series 7. I really like the head design. It's just everything underneath I don't like.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the fact that the voices have gone back to the Cybus ones again. I hate that they've actually just removed all the human stuff, so they're just robots. So I'm like, so they're not actually Cybermen, they're just robots walking around. And they walk like shit. They just walk like shit. I actually, I actually say this, when one of the trailers dropped for, I think it was like the second half of Series 12, and we got the first look at these Cybermen, I actually put out a tweet that kind of went quite viral. Like, I got a couple of hundred retweets and likes and stuff. It's the only time that ever happened with my 21 followers. No one cares. And I put out a thing where, like I said, the face looks fine, the rest of it looks like shit. The Mondasian ones are the better ones, and that's the one that actually went viral, because people were like, yeah, we actually agree that these ones are actually better. I just thought I'd say that because I just thought it was funny, because it's never happened again. As I say, I don't like this like new design again. I think it looks ridiculous. It's by no means the worst design.
Again, like, it's the... I totally agree. It's the head, and you're like, good. And then you just work your way down. Okay, we've got an Iron Man type thing going here.
Look, they don't fly again. I'm pretty certain they can't fly.
Don't,
They
please.
can float.
I don't think they do. But I don't think I could take it any seriously if it's bad enough that he's taken the classic Cybermen from like Tom Baker era, because that's, well, actually no, Patrick Troughton era. I'll be corrected. Patrick Troughton era, because that's when they first came out.
Well done, Dan.
In the Cyberman invasion of London.
The good old times.
And then you add in this new stuff, which I'm like, I don't mind, but it just looks pretty terrible.
The other bit that this episode does is actually something I've actually been clamoring for. Like, seriously, I've been clamoring for this for years, for Doctor Who to feature more flashbacks set in Ireland. I've wanted more of that, and this episode does it. Obviously, I'm kidding. It makes no fucking sense. Like, it just keeps on doing, oh, the Cyber Wars, oh, there's a weird baby that we've never seen before. Maybe we should raise it. Back to the Cyber Wars. Oh, this baby wants to be a policeman. Okay, back to the Cyber Wars. Oh, he's falling off a cliff. And
Yeah, it dips in and out of like really like pointless flashbacks to Ireland. I'm like, well, what's the substance here?
Do you know
like,
what it is,
the
right?
hell is going on?
my theory was, and it's far better than what the episode actually is and what it reveals in the next one, is one of the actors that's in it, I honestly thought was the same actor that played a Shard. So what I actually thought we were seeing was like his origin for like why he becomes part of the Cyberman stuff. But it's not. It's actually a completely different actor, and they just happened to look the same. I actually thought we were going to be like delving into his conscience, and he's like reminiscent about the time he was a human, because he can still do that, because he's not.
Would have been miles better, because you literally have I don't even think you have any kind of background into this being whatsoever.
Well, with a Shard, no. With the actual flashbacks, yeah, we do get context. Which I suppose we'll move on to, because we're probably going to be screaming for a little bit. The actual finale. Oh yeah, and the Master popped up at the end, and there's Gallifrey.
Then the Master popped up at Gallifrey at the end.
I don't know where like he fits in like the timeline on that one. But yes, we now have the series finale, The Timeless Children. Chibnall must have grown a pair of balls in between episodes to produce something as ballsy as this. Full disclosure, I hate virtually everything about this episode. So it's hard to not go off on a tangent. What it does to Who is both pointless and ridiculous. The climax is ridiculous. The Cybermen have nothing to do. And Jodie Whittaker is just...
The Cybermen are ridiculous.
The Cybermasters.
Right, I'm sorry. That name, it honestly sounds like some really sketchy, like, PC repair thing. Like, I imagine it just being in, like, a really, like, sketchy alley, and you go in, it's like, oh, I need my PC repaired, and, like, you just get a load of Cybermen just turning around with PCs. Like, just with, constructing PCs and stuff, and they just turn around. That's how I honestly imagine it, and their freaking design.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Well, actually, we'll get to that in just a second. So, you know, as I say, we've got the Return of the Master. Again, the only decent thing in this era. I love his outfit. Quite frankly, I think it's great.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
Like, but I can't quite figure out whereabouts in the timeline he's supposed to be. Like, is he before Spyfall or after? Because why is he suddenly on Gallifrey popping back out? I don't get it. I also hate how everything between the Doctor and the Master is her literally chained up and being told a story for the entire episode. It's just like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Would have been far more interesting if the Cybermasters were all playing the theme from Star Wars as well. That would have been more interesting.
No, wouldn't it be terrible, Dan?
Because at least they'd have something to do.
Well, because I mean, for one, this is actually the first time we've had Cybermen on Gallifrey, like in the entire history of the show, which I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. Not much of a reaction. But the Master's plan is to bring the Cybermen here and then convert the Time Lords he hasn't actually killed yet, because he lied, and then convert them into Cybermen. So now we have the Cybermasters with stupid headpiece ear thingies and cloaks, because Cybermen have a sense of fashion. No, they don't.
Yeah. Again,
they don't care.
It's maybe down to my personal interpretation of this, right? But seeing as how Chibnall, you know, likes the classic era, I would have thought that he would at least have taken on board that, like, look at, like, the classic era Daleks, right? You always have, like, a unique Dalek that stands out, like the Supreme Dalek. It stands out compared to every other Dalek, right? The same with the Cybermen leaders throughout the ages of Doctor Who. Like, yeah, the design has obviously changed, and it's become quite, like, basic over the years. But I would have thought that, like, Cybermen Time Lords would have a unique look to them, but they just look stupid as shit.
Yeah, they look like fan art, but, like, bad kind of fan art.
Yeah, it honestly looks like a first concept art drawing. And it's like, oh, we'll just use this.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate them. I hate the name. They just look ridiculous. And I'm sorry, Dan. I will spoil this for you. Despite the fact that these fuckers are blown up at the end of this episode, this is not the last time we actually see them in this era.
No!
I thought, do I tell them? Do I say nothing?
Oh,
No,
I
because...
thought we were done with these absolute cretins.
Shall we get on
I
to
thought
the...
this was just a one-shot thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's fine. I mean,
No.
when they do come back, they're there for 2 minutes. No, actually, no, wait. No, they're not. They're actually there for longer. Shit. Sorry, I actually forgot.
Oh, no.
Alright, Chewie. Chewie, we're screwed.
Just send you back around to kill them all.
I fucking wish I could, mate. But I can't because he's fictional. Now, the big stuff in this episode. As teased from the end of Spyfall Part 1, everything you think you know is a lie. Ooh. I'm like, right. You better come up with something good to cover that then. Because in reality, no, of course not.
It's like the worst thing in Doctor Who ever.
It is the worst decision in Doctor Who, like, honestly. And again, I've heard so many retorts to this where people do actually like it. And I've listened to it, and I can see it from like their perspective, but I still fundamentally disagree with it. So, in the case with this episode, we learn what the Timeless Child is. This is a being that is found underneath a dimensional portal by Tecteun, what are they called? Shiborgans from Gallifrey. I'm like,
Yes.
Shiborgan. Such a stupid name. She finds this child.
Again, it just sounds as if like somebody sneezes. It's like, perfect
Yeah.
name.
Shiborgan. Sorry, Pating. Oh, God, sorry. Kasavin. Oh, my God, Chris, I've got such a bad cold. Oh. The Morax.
Never mind, keep going.
The Cybermasters. Chris, what on earth are you on? COVID. So Tecteun finds this kid and then raises it as one of her own. She raises it, them, whatever. And then the kid is playing on a cliff because she's clearly an idiot, hasn't been raised properly, and then falls off.
The kid's playing on a cliff, and clearly she's a stupid kid because why would she be playing on a cliff? She clearly wasn't raised right.
She falls off the cliff, looks thoroughly disinterested as she falls, just, oh no, I'm falling. It's like I'm falling on a green screen. What's a green screen? I don't know. I don't know what anything is. And then proceeds to regenerate. The first time on Gallifrey. So this loving mother, in her infinite wisdom, steals this kid, locks her on a fucking table, and proceeds to experiment on her for years to come. Time Lords are dickheads, as it turns out. I'm like, yeah, of course they were. Because this kid has natural regeneration, and as is revealed, Tecteun finds a way to synthesize this, and then gives it to the rest of her species, and they become Time Lords. Their society accelerates dramatically. Oh yeah, by the way, the Timeless Child is the Doctor.
Like, it just feels so rushed and put in. Like, that bit with the Doctor being the Timeless Child, like, I guarantee, like, the idea was wrote, and like, someone else was like, well, who's the Timeless Child, Chris? I will just put it as the Doctor. No one will suspect that.
They basically did a rear.
Like, you absolute tool.
Mm-hmm. Difference being is that you're actually doing a disservice
Why
to tools.
one of the writers didn't throw an egg at him?
Do you want to know what the worst thing
bewildered.
is? Right, is that this idea isn't the first time that this has been explored in Doctor Who. I'm not sure how much you know about, like when during the Seventh Doctor's era, obviously it was cut short in 1989.
Yeah.
The original plan for his era was to actually reveal that the Doctor was involved in like the origins of Time Lord society. You'd have Rassilon, Omega, and the Other, which had been said before. Mm-hmm. The Other was going to be revealed to be the Doctor. That idea was obviously scrapped when like the show ended, and even the guy who came up with it, Andrew Cartmel, his entire idea was then dubbed by fans the Cartmel Master Plan. Even he said was a stupid idea, and he's glad it didn't happen because it would have robbed so much mystery about the character.
Oh yeah.
And even he said it after this episode went out, he said it was a terrible idea to have the Doctor be the Timeless Child. I'm like,
No shit.
I'm like, oh my
Sherlock.
god, like no filter, it's all Cartmel. Thank you very much. But yeah, literally, they do a rare and just make the Doctor special by fucking birthright. Because here's the thing.
They do a rare.
Yeah, they do a
for
rare.
God's sakes.
Because there's a line from the 12th Doctor in Series A, which I've always loved. Like, because his whole arc in Series A is trying to figure out what kind of person he is. Is he a good man or a bad man?
Yeah.
No, he's an idiot with a box and a screwdriver passing through, helping out. That's who the Doctor is, and that's all it should be. They shouldn't be very important. They should only be important to the people that they meet. So to have the Doctor
Yes.
literally be the only reason that Gallifrey and the Time Lords exist, I absolutely hate that. Like, I really hate it. And they somehow, even after
You
that,
take away
make it even worse.
so much of the mystery.
Well, yeah.
You take away so much of the mystery.
So
it's unbelievable.
So obviously, in this case, we now know that the Timeless Children is actually just the Doctor over many, many lives, because they've had now loads of lives. It also makes the plot hole. It's not really like the episode "The Brain of Morbius" from the fourth Doctor's era. There's that bit where you see like a load of different faces, and it's assumed to be the Doctor, but it's never said. Now it's made canon that is the Doctor in different faces. I'm like, he looks like a pirate
of course it bloody
in
is.
one of them. I don't get that.
Yarr.
Also, one of them, he has a beard. I'm like, the closest we've had is now Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, who's going to have a moustache. I want the Doctor with fucking facial hair. For love, like, you should have had Jodie do it. I would have loved that.
What?
I don't care. So now we get context to the flashbacks in the previous episode, in that the person being like electrocuted by the Irish, which is a weird line I never thought I'd say, is the Doctor, because they were part of this elusive thing known as the Division, not the video game Division, which is actually the first thing I thought of, and I've never played that. I was like, oh, you're part of a video game now.
To be honest, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. Like, I mean, hey-ho.
Yeah. But the bit that I hate the most, surprisingly enough, despite all that, and me raging about that, is the fact that...
Despite the bit I hate most bit.
Is the fact that you then have 13 starting to question everything. She's like, why would they lie? And you're like, because they're Time Lords. That's just what they do. That is what they've always done. Not that bit, actually, that I hate. Is the fact that you then have her questioning who she is. And then you have the fugitive Doctor, again, Joe Martin just stealing the scene again, popping up, and then telling the Doctor that her doing all this is completely meaningless. Like, everything she's learned is pointless because you know who you are. If you're going to have your own characters tell you that the reveal that we've just been waiting for is completely unimportant, then why the fuck would you do it in the first place? Like, what does it... Like, it adds nothing.
I wish I had an answer for you, but I just don't.
No, because it adds nothing, but then also changes everything. Like, it barely changes her circumstance. Like, you look at the Doctor at the beginning of this series, or even the beginning of this episode, and then look at her at the end. Beyond being a little bit more mopey, that's it. She hasn't done any... There's nothing else that's come of it. And spoiler alert, Dan.
Yep.
Sorry, because I'm going to do it again. Would you like to know how much the Time Child actually factors into the rest of this fucking era?
I dread to think.
Very little. So again, why would you do it? Beyond just the fact that you could say that, and then Chris can say, yes, what I brought to Doctor Who is that I completely retcon the entire history of the show. Bye-bye. That's it.
My name's Chris Chibnall. Welcome to Jackass. Today we're going to retcon the entirety of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Hate it. Absolutely hate it.
Absolute fish finger. Yeah, it's safe to say most of my time watching that episode was just thinking about other better episodes.
Which is the same for virtually every episode.
And occasionally I'd look up from my phone to see what was going on because I was so bored and annoyed, and every just bad emotion for this absolutely atrocious finale because it's just absolute trash.
Yeah, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Like, I've seen people's reaction to it, and like, yeah, everybody has their own opinion, but for me, I just didn't get this at all. I thought, what is the absolute point?
No, definitely.
Like, why?
And then you've got, again, we've got one more episode. We'll just quickly address it, because I've got not much more to say on it. Revolution of the Daleks. Awesome title. Like, genuinely, really, really good title. And promise. You know, it had promise.
Yep.
But then it brought in, and I'm paraphrasing,
Stupidity.
Donald Trump Theresa May,
Theresa May.
Edwin fucking Bracewell. That stupid recon scout Dalek thing. Daleks with tear gas. And the murdering of an innocent little TARDIS. That is Revolution of the Daleks in 70 minutes that I rewatched 2 days ago, and I was like, why the fuck did I do this?
It's an absolute nitpick for me, right? And again, with Chibnall's love for classic era, you'd think that he'd give, like, you know, I think they're quoted as being Death Squad Daleks.
The Doctor actually thinks it's a good idea to bring Death Squad Daleks to Earth to like murder the new Daleks, and you seriously didn't think for a second that they might actually go off and do something else. Like, you really brought...
It's just the fact that, you know, you give a really petrifying name like Death Squad Daleks, and you use the most generic frickin' Daleks ever. We've had these Daleks since the feckin' 9th Doctor, for Christ's sake. Can't we just have the Daleks that are nearly too big to hit the ceiling? Again,
Yeah, you know, again, just make them a little bit shorter, I would have been fine. But you do have these new Daleks, these defense drones. I'm glad they weren't going to stick around, because they do look a bit...
Oh.
There's bits I like. I really like the voice. That it's actually a really cool voice. Everything else, though, I hate. Like, I really dislike it.
It's like a bad pottery project with a gun.
But also is the fact, right, you've got the title Revolution of the Daleks. You're like, okay, so these Daleks are going to try and overthrow the other ones. That's the whole point. No.
A bit like Remembrance of the Daleks.
Well, that's the thing, because you've got, like, the Dalek Civil War stuff in the classic era. I think there's, like, I can never remember the name. I think there's Remembrance, Resurrection, and there's another one that also begins with an R.
Yes.
And it's all about the Dalek Civil War. I cannot remember the name. I do apologise to the classic Who fans out there. But I thought, okay, we're actually going to get a modern version of that. I'm fine with that. I'd like to see that. Because Daleks need something different. These ones get their squiddy asses handed to them in seconds.
These ones get their squiddy asses handed to them in seconds. For fuck's sakes. Well, it's true though. They literally just land and the Daleks just sat there in his little bad pottery Dalek-y case. And he's just like, oh shit.
Yeah. So the Doctor's plan to defeat these Daleks is to bring in the other Daleks to Earth to destroy those Daleks. Assume that they'll do that, then nuke the other Dalek's ship, and then the remaining ones lure them into the other TARDIS that the fam have got, which, you know, I forgot to mention. Pose it as her TARDIS. And, you know, first of all, the fact that they even fall for this, like, oh, it's the Doctor. Charge! And it's just every single one of them fly into the TARDIS. And you just get that.
I found that hilarious. I laughed a little too hard just seeing all the... It was like watching like a vacuum cleaner just suck all the Daleks in.
But even then, you have... honestly, the funniest shot is of the console room of that TARDIS, and the Daleks are just stood there just like, what the fuck is this? What have we done? But then you literally have the Doctor commit murder on two fronts. She murders the Daleks and then crushes a TARDIS to death. She actually kills a TARDIS.
Yeah.
Like,
she literally just does this. Hold on, I'll just finish this.
oh, it'd be funny if you didn't finish it.
She literally just does this to the TARDIS.
Podcasters, ASMR.
No.
Yeah, I hate that. It's like everything is just resolved in 10 minutes. There's no, like, revolution of Daleks at all. Like, whatsoever.
There's no resolution nor revolution.
No. Captain Jack is in this again. Pointless. Like, because here's things, like, the other subplot in this episode, because I didn't mention this in the previous one, is that the Doctor's now in space prison. The prison doesn't even have a fucking name, which is hilarious.
Oh no, it's just like some giant meteorite in a prison just happens to be built on it. It's like, Right.
And you gotta love how
Okay, then.
how the other aliens that are in there are the only Doctor Who alien costumes that haven't been subjected to the ravages of time. They actually all look relatively intact. So you've got an Ood, you've got a Sycorax, which is pretty cool to see. You've got the fucking Pating, which isn't a costume, but you know. And you've got a Silence.
No, that's a thing.
You've got like a member of the Silence, and I do like the Doctor's line where it's like, "Oh, I actually forgot that you were here." I like that one a little bit. And there's a Weeping Angel, and Captain Jack in his very, very old looking face, who proceeds to say, "Oh yeah, I've been in this prison for 19 years specifically to try and get to the cubicle next to yours." I'm like, you could have just broke in. Like, there's no guards here. You'd be fine. But again, him being here is completely pointless. Like, you could literally have him as any other previous companion or character, and it wouldn't change. Mm-hmm. You've also got to love, this guy's immortal. They never use that once. He's never shot or anything.
No.
He doesn't fall out. Like, I think he should have either been blown up in the nuke.
Considering that it's frickin' Daleks as well, like, you'd think they'd at least do some cheeky little tribute to, you know, his first case of immortality when he gets exterminated by a Dalek, and it's like, ta-da!
Mm-hmm. No, it's just...
But no.
What an absolute waste of a character. And he doesn't even get an actual goodbye. He just says goodbye over the phone. I'm like, Jesus!
I know.
What are you... But no, the other thing...
Like, again, no resolution.
No.
No revolution.
The only other thing that happens in this episode is that we have the departure of Ryan and Graham, of which they have nothing to do in this
lamest
episode.
departure ever.
Well, yeah, because Graham has absolutely nothing to do in this entire episode. Ryan has just made it pretty plain that he doesn't want to travel anymore because they've been left on Earth for 10 months. Oh yeah, also, you gotta love how they need to have a character moment between the Doctor and Ryan, so they put in some sort of plausible excuse for the TARDIS to take 4 minutes to get to Japan, so they can have a talk.
Yeah.
Like, it appears immediately. That's how it works. Not 4 minutes. Chibnall! Come up with a better excuse. Like, even if you said, okay, we've landed. Oh, you want to have a talk? Okay, we'll just lock the door. Be fine. Be fine.
Everybody out.
Yeah. Again, like, they try really hard to make, like, their whole departure interesting or sad, and it doesn't work.
But it's not, though. It just isn't.
No. And it's a shame because
Like-
what we're left with is the Doctor and Yaz, which I thought is actually a good idea because them two are in dire need of some actual development. We still don't get that in Series 13 because what we do get is John Bishop. I'm kind of done talking about this episode. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm battered.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of final thoughts on this series, is it better than Series 11?
Yeah.
Is that only because there's one episode that we both actually think is actually any good?
Yeah.
So therefore it wins.
Well, yeah, because of Series 11, like, every episode is just either bad or average at best, and the special is, like, the best thing to come out of it, and it's not even that good of a special.
No, it's not.
But with this series, there is one absolutely terrific episode, and everything else is kind of just like...
To just,
It's
what
okay,
the
you know, a
fuck?
couple of episodes are a bit... Yeah, to a special that's just like, what in the absolute squiddy arse is this?
I thought you'd like the squiddy arse, which is not a line I thought I would ever say either. Talking about Doctor Who has just kind of broke us, I think.
Oh, that is just no context whatsoever there. I thought you'd like the squiddy arse.
Oh, I might
Dear
have to
me.
rip off your idea and just use that as a reel, I think. Only seems fair. Gotta love how both involve me. It's like, no, Dan, no!
No.
But yes, that is our thoughts our many thoughts on Doctor Who Series 12. That was definitely a series. It was definitely made and
Yes,
partially
it
written.
was.
Very, very much partially.
It was.
Yeah, as I say, it's technically by default better than Series 11 by one episode, but it also has some of the worst stuff I've ever seen in Doctor Who history. So it kind of balances out, quite frankly. Dan will be delighted to know.
Timeless continuity.
Yeah, Dan will be delighted to know that there's now a 2-week wait before we talk about Series 13, so he can relax. And he's smiling now, isn't it? Isn't that a happy moment? You have a longer amount of time to spend watching that series. You poor soul.
I'm free.
Not really, though.
I'm finally free. I'm not, like, I'm only free for 2 friggin' weeks. But then again, I'll probably just end up finishing the sodden series this week just to get it over and done with.
Yeah, please don't.
So I never, ever, ever have to watch it again.
No, you don't. Yes, thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. As ever, all the support and stuff is greatly appreciated. Like, share, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Next weekend, we're not recording. It's my birthday, so I have got no interest in podcasting, quite frankly. I'm just going to get pissed, quite frankly. Maybe not. I'll see. I'll think about it. But yes, we'll be back the week after for our penultimate episode of 2022. We're not actually ending with Doctor Who as tragic as that'd be. We do have something else planned for that, which should be nice and light. Quite frankly, we can have fun with that one. Not with Series 13.
You say that.
No. Series 13 is going to be an interesting one to talk about, but we'll be back in 2 weeks for that. So thank you again for listening. But until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.